Yes, yes, yes. Here we are back at it again, guys. Another episode of the Practical Training Podcast with yours truly, Admiral Mike Bell of PTPGun.com, guys. Practical training professionals right here in the beautiful Southern Maryland. I am so blessed to be here today, guys, and I feel just so fortunate to be able to come on the microphone and talk to you guys every week. Guys, today's going to be an interesting episode. There's been kind of a lot of stuff happening in the gun world over the past couple weeks that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week and more. All right. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming back. If you haven't already, make sure you drop down and hit that subscribe button, guys. And then tell a buddy you're listening to Practical Training Podcast. All right, let's get into it. Bam. Where are we at today, guys? All right. So what I want to talk to you guys about today first is it's actually something pretty interesting I've been checking out. All right. So you'll see here on the screen a few days ago. So this was last Tuesday. This guy, John Marshall. All right. He's the founder of the liberal news site Talking Points Memo. He claimed on Tuesday the right to own guns is made up by pro-Second Amendment activists. And you can see that here on the screen, guys. Again, if you're audio only, I encourage you to head over to YouTube. You can type in PTP Firearms Training, PTPGun.com Firearms Training, anything like that. If you type in PTP Firearms Training, you're going to find us, all right? You want to get over there. You want to check us on YouTube so you can see this stuff. But if not, you know, I do a good enough job here talking through it. So what you're seeing on the screen here is this is from John Marshall. This is a tweet that he put out last Tuesday saying, just to remind everyone, the individual right to own and use firearms is completely made up and the product of NRA-funded activism. All right? Now, that's just crazy. All right? Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing you got to watch out for, guys. All right? When you see these people, these anti-gun people starting to use different language, you've got to watch out for that, all right? This guy couldn't be bothered to use the Founding Fathers' original language, right? The right of the people to keep and bear arms. How did he put it? The individual right to own and use firearms. Two different things, all right? Two different things. If you break it down, though, there is a difference, all right? They said, right, and these are their words here. They said the right of the people to keep and bear arms, not own and use firearms. That's a big difference. All right. This is a ploy. What you're seeing here, this is a ploy the anti-gun group likes to pull the thread on, right? They like to twist the vernacular. They instead of saying keep, they say own. And instead of saying bear, they say use. And another thing where they really dig in deep here, guys, is they also like to say that when the founders said the people, meaning me and you and the rest of our brothers and sisters in America, when they said the people, what they mean, they say, is the founding fathers meant to say was the state. So you twist it all up, and essentially what he's trying to say is the right of the state, okay, to own and use firearms instead of the right of the people to keep and bear arms. All that stuff, guys. It's the language they're trying to use. It's interesting. It's interesting that the phrase right of the people only appears, and this is something that hits on me, all right? The entire Constitution, okay? The entire Constitution. The phrase right of the people only appears in 3 of the amendments, all right? The first, the second, and fourth. So let me ask you guys, all right? And if you're listening here, come over to PTPGun.com or PTPGun.com Firearms Training on Facebook or YouTube and let us know in the comments, guys. What I want to know from you is this. Are the people, right of the people that they talk about in the First and Fourth Amendment, are they different than the people that they're talking about in the Second Amendment? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But I want you guys to go ahead and drop down the comments and let us know what you're thinking, all right? So are the people referred to in the First and Fourth the same people referenced in the Second? right? Now, I think the use of the term people, the use of people, makes the amendment pretty much self-explanatory. Now, I'm not sure where these people come up with these talking points, which is interesting because that's the name of this guy's, company, right? He's the founder of the liberal news site Talking Points Memo. But I don't know where these guys come up with these talking points, but you would think after 200 years, right, they would have got the memo, the real memo, right? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, right? But it's as if their version of history must be different than ours. It's as if I don't know. I guess they think that if they say something enough times over and over again, either they'll start to believe it or the people that are listening to them will start to believe it and, magically erase history and their version will eventually become the truth. And, it's really baffling. It's really baffling, guys. And, I actually wrote up some decent notes for this episode that you guys will be able to find over there on the blog, PTPGun.com. Drop down the blog. You guys will see this there, right? But it's so much. I put so much thought into this because I didn't want to get anything wrong. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I wanted to make sure that what I was communicating made sense and that I wasn't trying to paint a bad light on somebody that was noble, had good ideas, right? But if you look, here's the thing that the anti-gun people like to do. They like to try to take things out of context. They like to try to twist the history of the founding fathers and the Constitution and the United States. Right? But if you look at the writing of the Second Amendment in its context, okay, the writers of the Constitution were deeply skeptical. All right. You know what? I want to ask you guys a question real quick. This little background thing we're doing here on YouTube, I don't know if that's any good. All right. You guys let me know. Say, hey, Mike, we want some more face shot or something like that. I don't know. I could always throw in what's this guy? Boom. Throw in the wavy flag thingy. I don't know if that's going to do anything. I could hit you with the full screen cam. But again, it's just me looking at the screen. So I try to do something like this, right? Which one's this? Bam. Hit you with that stuff. But I took you out of perspective there, but I'm kind of looking at the screen, looking at my notes and seeing the stream here that's going on. I was like, wow, what's going on here with this? Is this what people like to see? I could throw another talking face, camera over here in front of me that might be able to pick stuff up. But back to it, all right? If we look at the writing of the Second Amendment in its context, the writers of the Constitution were deeply skeptical of any centralized power and control of a federal government, right? Clearly, they did not want the centralized government to threaten local populations. It could easily be viewed, right? It could easily be, argued that state governments were also seen as centralized power and thus should also be viewed with skepticism, right? You want to take the power down to the people, not place it at the state level and the federal level, right? The power of these rights that were not given to us, right? These are unalienable rights. These are birthrights. Right? The power of those rights belongs with us, not with the federal government or with the state government, right? No, with no singular centralized power, right? So when you look at it in that context with this whole, personal driven, basically, divine right given to us, when you look at it through that context, you got to look at the militias of the day as the ones with the right to keep and bear arms. Okay? Militias which were made up of individual people like you and me and the rest of our brothers and sisters, right? No one ran down to the federal or the state or even the militia storehouse, right, to collect their weapons. They kept them at home. They took them along with them when they were called up. You know what I'm saying? And if and when needed, they formed a militia. They brought their arms with them and they joined and they fought where they had to. Okay. Now also note like this, right? Note at that time, by law, the militia was all able-bodied men of age, all right, with the exception of certain critical occupations. They were also required by law to maintain a military grade weapon, ammunition, and all of the required recruitments, right? Everything that went to support that, to outfit that person. If you're in the military, this is your TA-50 and your firearm, right? In other words, the modern equivalent to the militiaman back in the day would be something like this, right? It would be every adult in America would be required by federal law to keep a fully automatic AR-15, sufficient high-capacity magazines, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, your load-bearing equipment, your bulletproof vest, your helmet, etc., all this stuff in your home all the time, ready for use, right? I don't have a problem with that. Do you guys have a problem with that? I didn't think so, right? But, that's kind of where we're at on this. It's if we go by the standard of those times, if we look at that context of the way that the language is written into the Constitution to prevent a tyrannical government from ever prying that right away from us, right? Part of that is we need to be outfitted. We need to own our gear, by the language of the law or the intent of the law as it was written back then. Okay. And I would also encourage you guys here real quick. So where we change the page here on the stream, guys. So if you're watching, if you're listening audio only, please head over to YouTube, PTPGun.com, Firearms Training on YouTube. You'll be able to see this stuff. So this is a busy screen. All right. Let me scroll up actually so you can see it. All right. Not only were our rights discussed in the Constitution, many of you are familiar with, or if you're not, you should be familiar with the Federalist Papers. All right. Now, one that was important to this argument would be the Federalist Papers Number 46. All right. This was a document that was written by Madison. It's given to the people of the state of New York as a series of resumes, or not resumes, I'm sorry, as a series of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Essays. All right. Now, if you look at the Federalist Papers, number 46, and this is verbose, right? There's a lot of his prose of writing was very much 1700s. But it's still written in a way that you could understand it. And you kind of got to go pretty deep here if you scroll down, all right? And if you scroll down, what you'll see is that, make sure I didn't lose it here. It pretty much explains in this document, right, what can be expected of a militia. It's pretty clear in this document exactly what a militia is and is not, and the strength of that militia, and how it can threaten, or not threaten really, but defend itself against a tyrannical government. And I want to make sure I could pull that up so you guys could find it. All right. Yep. So if you look at it, there are the last 3 paragraphs of the Federalist Papers number 46. If you read the second to last and the third to last. So if you're watching on the stream here, it would be these 2 paragraphs that are highlighted, right? This right here will really break down what the people of that time intended when they said militia and what that meant. All right. So I encourage you to head over there and check that out. Again, you guys, drop down in the comments and let us know what you think. All right. Let us know if you think what I just said is what the founding fathers intended. All right. Should we be able to keep and bear arms as they intended, or should we only be able to, the state be able to own and use arms? All right. I digress. Moving on here. All right. So let's jump over here. One more screen bounce. Bam. All right. Moving on. So the 1st of July was a historic day for Tennessee. All right. There was this bill that pushed through by the General Assembly and signed by Governor Bill Lee for constitutional carry. And on July 1st, that law, if you will, took effect. All right. Well, on the screen here, it says beginning July 1st, there is no longer a requirement to go through the permit training course to carry a handgun in Tennessee. The new law allows for both open and concealed carry of handguns for people 21 and older with a permit, as well as military members 18 to 20 years old. All right. So passing the bill. All right. So this is, there's more to it. Okay. So essentially the new measure means Tennessee's of certain age will no longer have to apply for a permit or go through the required safety courses to legally carry a handgun. right? You would have to be 21 to legally carry, or 18 if you're active duty military, and there would be restrictions against people with certain convictions, like DUIs or any kind of stalking or battery or different things like that, right? That you wouldn't be able to this law still wouldn't apply to you because you fall under a different ATF category here. Now, what this does, right? So passing the bill means stealing a gun. Here's the thing, right? It's give and take. It has to be sometimes, and hate to say this, but sometimes you got to be flexible, right? A lot of people toe that line of give an inch, take a mile, but what can I say? But you kind of got to work between the lines. All right. And in this situation, what's now happening is that you're essentially, and I even hate saying given because this is a God-given right, but you're given by the state of Tennessee the ability to carry, whether open or concealed, your firearm without having to go through all the training and all that other stuff. Right. But that's the give. Now, what's the take, right? So you have to incentivize some of those people that generally wouldn't vote for this kind of policy to grab a hold of it, all right? So one of the things here that they're doing is if you steal a gun in the state of Tennessee, where normally that's a misdemeanor, now it's a minimum Class E felony. And if you're convicted of stealing that gun, you would have to serve a minimum of 6 months in jail. What that used to be was 30 days in jail. So now it's from misdemeanor chop and 30 days up to a felony chop and 6 months in prison. All right. So they're increasing some of the policing and the jurisprudence behind, what that law would actually do, as they're kind of empowering more people to exercise their Second Amendment right in the state of Tennessee. All right. Now, what do you guys think of this? Right. So my personal beliefs, and as you know, right, I work, range cadre for practical training professionals here in Southern Maryland. We train people to survive. That's our motto, right? Train to survive. We encourage people to train. Because training is what's going to separate you when a situation arises where you need to be prepared, right? The unprepared, the people without a plan, they don't execute. All right. So my personal beliefs is that training should always be an option. It should be optional. Okay. But from me, okay, I certainly recommend it. I feel the same way with cars, all right? And I've said this before, but just let's assume that an automobile, right, was, I don't know, there was an amendment similar to the Second Amendment for automobiles. I don't really think that upon turning 16 years old, that just anybody should be able to jump in a vehicle and drive that son of a bitch down the street. It's dangerous, okay? It's dangerous. So that is a killing machine if you're not trained on how to use it. Me personally, I'm currently training my soon-to-be 16-year-old daughter how to drive, and it is terrifying. I couldn't imagine just a world of people running around without a license to driving on the road at 16 years old. So training, right? And I kind of feel the same way about the Second Amendment, although there is a right buried in there. To keep and bear arms, right? So what do you guys think? Drop down the comments and let us know, guys. Do you think that lifting the training requirement was a good idea or a bad idea? Now, let me know. Drop down the comments, all right, guys? That's something I wanted to hit on. My personal beliefs, again, are training should be optional, but is certainly recommended, right? I don't want, I'll say it again. I don't want some, hero of the day, throwing a bunch of lead around in a mall or anywhere else for that matter, trying to be the fucking hero, like you don't have the training for this. You haven't checked your backdrop. You don't know how far your round's going to travel. You don't know that stuff unless you've trained, unless you're aware of the situation. So I encourage some level of training. Let us know down in the comments, guys. All right. Now, last thing, the thing about this that kind of kind of pulled on me a bit, and actually it's going to set up what we're talking about next here is this. Why 21 years old, right? Do 18-year-olds not have the same right to self-defense, to defend, their life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness the same way that a 21-year-old does, or a 35-year-old or a 70-year-old person does? What makes 18-year-olds different than 21-year-old? Again, if we're lifting the training requirement, is it a maturity requirement? And how is that measured? And what happens when a 19-year-old wants to go out and buy a firearm to defend herself from a stalker ex-boyfriend or something like that, or home defense, or any other situation that you could think of? All right. Why not 18? Why are 18-year-olds not allowed to defend themselves? And this leads us to kind of our final big talking point of this episode. Okay. On July 13th, let me bounce screens here again for you guys paying attention out there. On July 13th, an appeals court down in Virginia, our neighbor out here, the appeals court on July 13th, an appeals court ruled that persons 18 years old and older are permitted under the Constitution to buy handguns from licensed dealers. Okay. In a 2-1 opinion, the Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond overturned a lower court ruling upholding the law. Now, Judge Julius Richardson wrote that the right to bear arms is a cherished constitutional right that should vest at 18 years old, similar to your right to vote and others. Okay. The court refuses to relegate either the Second Amendment or 18 to 20-year-olds to a second-class status. And essentially, that's what the ATF law that we'll talk about here in a second. I didn't have the screen pulled up. I can pull it up pretty quick. There was a back in 1968. All right, there was a law that came out that bars federally licensed dealers from selling handguns to people under age 21. But those age 18 to 21, right, and over, right, are still permitted under federal law as long as the state allows it, from buying handguns from private individuals. Okay, so you can go to a private party. You could buy your handgun at 18 years old in some states. Not all states. You have to check with the state requirements. All right. And then, of course, you could always buy your long guns, rifles, and shotguns from an FFL. But now the appellate court there in Virginia says that's BS, that 18-year-olds are not second-class citizens, that the Second Amendment is not a second class of the second-class status, that they, being 18 to 21-year-olds, should be able to defend themselves the same as anybody else. And Amy Hunter, all right, who was the NRA's Director of Media Relations, said, and I'm quoting here, she said, "The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals recognized today that millions of young adults must be allowed to exercise their fundamental constitutional right." Isn't it baffling to you? Let me go off the mic here. All right. So think back. If you're an older person, if you're, I don't know, my age, I'm about to be 39. Think back in time. When you're 18, you thought you had all the answers, right? You look back, that kid you were at 18, do you think that you would trust that person with a firearm? Yeah, probably, right? Most people that I know, myself and others, although naive, although maybe not quite, thinking with the right head on their shoulders, they still generally tend to do the right thing. If not, crime would be ridiculous in this country, and it's just not. So why 50 years ago did somebody think it would be a bad idea for 18-year-olds to own firearms? Well, you got to go back in time, right? That's 1970. And we're not going to get into the nature of the world in 1970. But do a little homework. You might be able to figure it out. Again, this isn't a political podcast, but there might be something there. Might be a thread to pull on. But anyways, I'm digressing here. I'd like to know again, guys, please, if you made it this far, drop down the comments and let us know what you guys think. Should 18-year-olds be allowed to buy firearms from FFLs? My take on that, okay, it would probably be a lot safer that way, right? It might actually keep some innocent kid, trying to defend himself from accidentally buying an illegal firearm from an unreputable source, right? Let's get him to the FFL. Let's have him fill out the required paperwork, right? Let's make it happen. Let's make sure it's legitimate. Because in my opinion, 18-year-olds have just the same right to defend themselves as anybody else. They're not second-class citizens, guys. But let them do it. All right. All right. What did we talk about, guys? We talked about John Marshall, the kook job that thinks that the Second Amendment says something that it really doesn't. We went on to talk about all ad nauseum about what the Constitution actually says. We pulled up the Federalist Papers here. We looked at what Madison wrote and essentially the definition of what a militia is. In fact, if you're looking at the screen here, you'll see he really even goes down into how big the militia needs to be, the exact number of souls, right? It'll even tell you. All right. Then we went on to talk about what's going on in Tennessee. People being able to buy guns at 21 and open carry or concealed carry without a permit or training. All right. And then, all right, why not 18-year-olds? So it just so happens that appeals court dealers right down here, appeals court ruled that dealers can sell handguns to 18-year-olds. This is right down here in Virginia. This is actually happening across the country in several different places, guys, but this is the most recent. All right. We're watching this develop. Pretty soon, we're actually going to get somebody on through PTP. We're going to have them work through the entire HQL process and try to get a license, a permit to buy a handgun. And the kid's 19 years old. But we want to work through it. We want to see what happens and what roadblocks he faces. All right. And possibly get somebody on the phone with the Maryland State Police and say, please tell me why you're enforcing this unconstitutional law. Because I'd really like to hear what the Maryland State Police has to say about that. So that's what we talked about. As always, guys, we like to finish up with Mike's favorite of the week. So today we're actually going to drop in. Let me jump on full screen here. Bam. You get to see my ugly mug again. Grab this. All right, guys. So what is this? This is my favorite of the week. This is the Mantis Blackbeard. All right. This is an auto trigger resetting system for your AR-15 rifle. What does this do? All right. Blackbeard makes dry fire practice with your AR-15 100 times more effective, efficient, engaging. You want to know more about this? I love this thing. All right. I actually just did a demo for this. If you're on audio only, head over to the YouTube. You'll be able to see that there. This thing is sweet. It essentially replaces your bolt carrier group, charging handle, and your magazine on your AR-15 platform. You replace those, your weapon system immediately becomes a training aid, and you can roll right into dry fire exercises with now an automatically resetting trigger. So there's no more squeeze, recharge your charging handle, squeeze, recharge, none of that. This is bang, 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 up to 10 rounds per second. Very quick. Does come with the bore laser that is adjustable to set you in, and then your barrel over bore adjustment, your height over bore adjustment, right? All that other stuff. It walks you through it. Super simple. You pair that with the Laser Academy app with either you could purchase fancy smart targets or you could print them yourself right from their website. Get those up on the wall. Take a picture of it, get your phone out there, scan it with the Laser Academy, and then you set up your Blackbeard in your AR-15 system, and now you're able to do indoor or outdoor dry fire training. Guys, train to survive. It doesn't get any more simple than that. You get the Mantis, you put it in your AR-15 system. They also support multiple calibers, right? Not only multiple calibers for pistols, but your carbines, right? With your different pistol caliber carbines, all right? Sort that out. Mantis, Blackbeard, love it. All right, guys. And with that, guess what? We're going to call it a wrap. Deuces. Bam.